is the group that I work with is the Data Science Engagement Group. And our group works with DOE user facilities. So there's a couple that are on site with us. So the Joint Genome Institute is one of these. The Advanced Light Source is also on site with us. And then also other sites like LCLS, the Linear Coherent Light Source. And so we work with them. We also work with a lot of experimental collaborations. So like DESI, the dark energy spectroscopy experiment. And then what we're really trying to do in our group is to enhance the way that scientists run their data. So this is like with real-time data analysis, scientific workflows, and scientific gateways. So being able to get your science out to the people who want to actually see it. And so some ways that we're trying to enhance the way that our scientists work are by giving them some services that they can use. So one of these is Spin. Spin is a Rancher's Kubernetes cluster. So our users can actually go and build their own web services. They can host workflow managers and databases in this Dockerized way that's easy for them to set up. And then we're also going and building a super facility API. So the idea with this would be that we can have flexible and programmable ways to interact with our HPC resources. And it would help to move a lot of people away from using long-lived SSH keys or having the problem having to renew SSH keys all the time. And so the goal for our next computing system, NERSC 10, would be to really integrate this even more into our HPC system. And so that would really help to support the way that we see workflows going with the way our computers work. So the group that I work with is JAWS, Joint JGI Analysis Workflow Service. Gotta love the government putting acronyms inside of acronyms. So my postdoc is working with the JAWS group, and their goal is to help their users run genomics workflows across multiple HPC sites. And so we handle the data management and movement for them, and then everything gets executed to a workflow manager called Cromwell, which is a kind of standard way that bioinformaticians go and use their work, and it uses a workflow description language to be able to do tasks. It allows for parallelism and then some conditionality in the way that their DAGs work. And so what I've been doing is I've been helping them to implement some performance monitoring on all of their tasks so that we can help our users be a little bit more efficient with their resources, and as well as transitioning over to Condor as an execution back. Our newest group lead, Steve Chan, was formerly at KBase, and I think gave a talk here at Condor Week 2018. So he's also kind of pushing our group to use Condor. So the current JAWS setup is that our users would log on to a site. Usually this is going to be Cori for them. They're going to log on to Cori, use a command line app, submit their WDL, their workflow description, and JSON, which is going to be the data that's going into this workflow. And then we handle kind of the backend for them. And currently, this our workflow manager, Cromwell, talks to a backend called JTM, the JAWS Task Manager. And this has really just been really hard for our users to configure. They basically have to go and set up their own pool and figure out how their works are going to work for the entire workflow and not just single tasks. And so kind of the goal is to move away from this backend and to move into using Condor as a backend. And we really think this is going to help our users to just be more efficient with the way that they're able to run things, and it's going to be able to use our resources better. So we're going to be able to really reuse our resources as an entire pool instead of each user having their own singular pool to work with. Some of the challenges that we're going to run into, though, is that if we put everything over into Spin, which is kind of the goal, we want to move our workflow management over into Spin. That's going to mean that we're going to have to start communicating everything now with our super facility API. So it's going to be a really good test of using Spin and our super facility API to be able to interact in this new way with our HPC resources. So I'll show kind of my setup right now of running in Spin. So I currently use the Condor Mini base image, and I've built a little bit on top of that. I've made just a couple scripts that write out the configuration files that I want based on some environment variables I can put in. And then this gives me access to all of our computing resources all at the same time. So both Corey and Perlmutter can now talk to the central manager. I can start up workers on either one of those and then farm out kind of the jobs that are submitted. So I have all this up on GitHub at the moment. It's still a work in progress. It's really right now just for the group that I'm working with. But anyone who wants to go and start using this, just kind of let me know, look at the GitHub, and we'll try and make it more useful for kind of everyone to use.
When you say start, you started by a slur on the floor.
Yes, yeah. So
you are submitting to slur. I'll keep it. You are going to slur, installing what we call a glide-in,
yep.
And they are reporting to your Mini, and that serves what I will call later your access point,
yeah,
to the Condor
right.
pool.
Yeah. So it's starting Slurm jobs, which then can communicate back with the central manager running in Spin.
Okay. Now you had. Can you go? You give him a few more minutes. Can you go back to the? So I have a question here about JAWS Central and the interaction with Globus. So you are using Globus to move data in and out
of each of the sites, correct?
To NERSC.
So most of our data lives at NERSC, and then this will use Globus to move it to our other sites. So we have another site over at Lab IT, which is another on campus as well as Enzel, which is up at Pacific Northwest.
So I would like to have a discussion at some point, also Brian, to understand how the data relationship between this piece and the other places where you store the data.
Yeah.
Okay. How do you control it? Okay. Thanks. Sorry for the interruption.
It's okay. So right now, talking about submitting jobs, I have a very simple pool manager that I've set up. Again, this is mostly just for the group that I'm working with. So we just need to be able to see how much work is sitting in our Condor queue, and then using that to go and update how many jobs that we actually need to be running. And so this is all kind of handled. I use Condor to go and figure out what jobs are in the current queue, and then I go and use the super facility API to both go and talk to the Slurm scheduler, see what work is currently running or is currently pending to run, and then do some determination of what needs to be, what more resources need to be put on in order to fill the jobs that I have there. And so right now, a lot of the tests are being done by submitting through a Rancher shell, but that's not going to be really great for our users to work with, or for anyone to work with. I've also tested kind of using a REST call, like making my own REST API based on the Python library. So the Python library essentially just you can describe jobs as a JSON, and so I can just basically put a small wrapper to go and send that JSON up. But really, what I see this more as is a way that we can accelerate workflows. So using Condor as a backend for our users to be able to run workflows and run workflows from different things. So this could be like Pegasus or Dagman. And again, the example that I use is going to be Cromwell. So Cromwell is a workflow manager on itself. And so it handles running the DAG. So it's going to go and figure out what needs to happen next. And so each task is then submitted as a Condor submit, goes into the queue, and then can be run. But by switching over to Condor for our users, it's going to be a lot easier for them to work with. So one of the things that we've had trouble with in the past is our users can't share these WDL files, their workflow descriptions, with outside collaborators because we have special parameters in there that none of the other places have. And so by going and having it so that each of our tasks are individualized, so you have to go and know the resources and the time for a specific task instead of the entire pool that's going to work with this. You can just go and hand these off to someone else with different backends and more easily use it. And that's really going to be because we're essentially just going to go pass our resources from the WDL onto Condor in the same kind of way. And so Condor will then handle how it's going to split up each of our workers. And so we also hope that this will give us a shorter turnaround for all of our users. So we're always going to have some kind of minimal pool working. And so our users' job should, if there are any open slots, be able to kind of go onto that resource almost instantly. And then also, a lot of our users are using some of their longer jobs are actually using a lot of memory, but then they also have a lot of shorter tasks that don't use much memory and only need like a CPU. And so we're hoping too that this will let two different users, one who's using a lot of memory on the system and one who's just using a little bit, being able to go and overlap these jobs onto the same node, which isn't currently able with any of our systems. So in conclusion, I'm helping the JAWS team set up their backend in Condor. We really hope this is going to be more efficient for our users to use. But I'm new to administrating a Condor cluster. So I've been a user of Condor, but never really administrated my own. So I'm still in the learning phase of how to really adapt and tune some of these features. So I know that everyone talks about knobs, and I'm trying to learn all the knobs. So one of the things that we're kind of worrying about and dealing with at the moment is we have some users who have really long running tasks. And so we have a time in our WDLs that will help us to know how long that task might run. But we don't want to start that job now on a worker that we're expecting is going to expire. And so we want to go and figure out a way to handle that, and maybe being able to handle that in Condor might be a way that we can do that. We also want to go and make sure that if we have workers that aren't doing any work, that we can clean those up from the pool easily and make sure that there's no jobs running on that worker before we try and clean that worker up. And so, yeah, in conclusion, if you're a NERSC user, let me know. If you think that this could be helpful for you in your workflows, just let me know, and I'll try and help you set it up and work it out. So I'm a scientist, so the more people who kind of fiddle around and try and figure this out will help me more to figure out how to make it useful for everyone. So, all right, thank you.